Good morning and welcome to my post-hike Appalachian Trail question and answer session. Loved all the questions, got over 30, almost 40 questions. So we might have to do this in a couple of parts just so there's not so many at once. But the first group of questions are going to be about Micah, because there are a lot of questions about Micah, which I was delighted to see and very happy to answer. I will show you the star right there. He is taking a little snooze on the in the screened-in porch with me, and he looks a little different, doesn't he? He got a little groomed yesterday, and she had to cut him short because after the hike he was pretty matted underneath and behind his ears, and some of the swimming that he did to cool off made his coat a little bit tangled. So, but he's doing great, and we just went for a 3.5-mile jog in the woods, and he's taken his morning nap now. All right, so let's start with the questions. They were wonderful, by the way. Okay, so I have them on my computer here, so you'll see me going back and forth. Very popular question. Some trails have no dogs allowed. Did I experience issues with that? And when did pets become allowed in Baxter State Park? Excellent questions. So Micah is a service dog, and the truth is dogs are not allowed in 3 parts of the Appalachian Trail. One is Baxter State Park, Katahdin, the zoo in New York. Dogs are not allowed to walk through that area, which makes total sense because there are animals there. And the third place is in the Smoky Mountains. Pets are not allowed, except service dogs. So since Micah is a service dog, he was allowed in all those places, no questions asked. Although I did not have him walk through the zoo. I thought that would not be fair to the animals and the ducks and the birds and so on, although he would have been fine because of his disposition, and he is so well behaved. But I just thought that probably would not be a good idea. But he went through the Smoky Mountains, and he went through Baxter, up Katahdin. No questions were asked, except is he a service dog? So there were probably less than 1% people who hiked with a dog. It was very rare to see that, through hike with a dog. There were a few families. One family I did see hiking with a dog. There was a mother, father, and their 10-year-old boy, and they completed the through hike without the dog. I think, and don't quote me on this, but somewhere I think in New York and New Jersey the heat was just too much for their dog. This dog was a husky, so he was very hot. So they made a good choice by getting the dog off trail. But I rarely saw people hiking with a dog. If I did, if they were through hiking, pretty much every through hiking dog I saw was a service dog, and very well behaved, and was there for a purpose. So that was a very popular question. What was the hardest part for Micah? You know, I have to say it was probably hardest for me worrying about Micah, but I have to say Mahusik Notch. I was so grateful to have Smack Dad and Lighthouse with me on that section, because with Micah's pack, we were literally lifting him up through the handle of his pack, putting him up on boulders, and then someone would go on the other side of the boulder and lower him down, because I didn't want him jumping down from the top. It would be terrible for his shoulders. So we would actually lower him down from the boulders, and then figuring out, which is the best route for him to go. A couple of times we were trying to figure out, okay, which way are we going to get Micah? And then he would go around it, and then he'd be on the other side, and we'd think, we should just let him do this himself, because he pretty much figured out a lot of the routes and the best way for him to maneuver. However, because of the boulders on Mahusik Notch, there were some areas that he really needed to be helped. So I would say that was probably his hardest part. People asked me about his paws, in Roxylvania. And honestly, I can tell you, his paws did great. Again, this was not his first rodeo. He has backpacked with me before in very rocky terrain. And, his paws, when I touched his paws, they're like sandpaper. Oh, and there was another hiker who was hiking with a golden doodle. This was early on. I think I met him in Virginia. And he was having real trouble with his golden doodle. And I touched his golden doodle's paws, and they were like a baby's bottom. They were very, very soft. So maybe that's genetics, one dog compared to another dog, or maybe just because Micah has hiked so much. I mean, he's been hiking and backpacking with me since he was 11 months old. So his paws are used to it. They're broken in. So, we had no problem with that. Although people asked me that question, how are his paws hanging, how's he doing? And I was like, they're doing great. I check them. The other question was, did I have any trouble with his paws? So go back to that for a second. So after we hiked in Connecticut, and he came down the ledges, which was very rocky and very steep, I noticed he was limping the next day. And I happened to be going to a friend's house to spend the night, which was nice. My husband has some friends in Salisbury, Connecticut, and they graciously took me up for the night, which was lovely. And I noticed Micah was limping, and I was, of course, concerned about Lyme disease or any kind of tick-borne disease. So they graciously got me an appointment for their veterinarian the next morning, and $400 later, which was totally worth it. She did a full tick panel on him, and the vet did everything to examine him, and she basically said, I don't see anything wrong with him, just, the tick panel was negative, everything was negative. So she said, which was good for me. I mean, that was more of a peace of mind for me. So she just said, she gave me the anti-inflammatories for dogs, give him that and see how he does. So I gave it to him for a few days, and he seemed to be doing better. But then I noticed he was limping again, and so I said, all right, let's check this out. So I just took his paws. Now, Micah does not like his feet being touched, even when he was a puppy. I try to break him in from that, and he gives me the teeth. He will never bite me, but he does not like his feet being touched. But I'm like, I got to see what's going on here. So I did. I grabbed his paws and I checked it, his right one. And lo and behold, between two of his toes, there was this tiny, tiny little cut. It was so tiny. So I went to a local outfitter and I bought him mushers, which is this sort of petroleum wax stuff that's used on dogs' paws when they're in the snow, and also on some rough terrain. I put some mushers on him. I put a bootie on him. And the bootie was hanging from a tree. The day I needed it, there it was. Somebody had probably lost a bootie off their dog, and somebody else picked it up and hung it from a tree. And I said, well, I'm going to take this bootie, and if, somebody says, hey, that's my bootie, I'll certainly give it to him. But nobody said that. So there was this bootie hanging from a tree. I had the mushers. Before that, I was prepared. I did have a baby's sock and a rubber bootie that I had on him. But this other bootie was like a little sneaker. So it was made for dogs. So I put the mushers on, I put the bootie on. He walked like that for 2 days. By the third day, he was perfectly fine. So there you go. Micah did great in terms of his body and his ability to do the hike. I was very impressed by that. What type of dog is Micah? Okay, probably should have started with that. He is a golden doodle, medium size. Golden Doodles come in 3 sizes, small, medium, and large. He is definitely a medium size. He's anywhere between 35 and 40 pounds. He is 7 years old. He turned 7 on trail, and one of my videos, we have a bunch of hikers in a shelter singing happy birthday to Micah. It's really cute. I can't even tell you what number video it was, but it was somewhere in Maine, because he turned 7 on August 15th, which happens to be my husband's birthday too. Okay, did Micah have any training outside of what my family provided because he's so calm and obedient? So yes, Micah was trained as a puppy. And before Micah, I had a white German Shepherd who was also trained as a puppy. And my white German Shepherd was very smart, just like Micah. And the techniques that I learned from my white German Shepherd, I used on Micah. And then with the professional training together was a wonderful combination and very consistent. Very, very consistent. I was very consistent with Micah in terms of training him. And he was very easy to train and still is very easy to train. He's just, his disposition, he's calm, he's obedient, and he was the perfect service dog for me and was able to help me with my impairment. So, I mean, I just think he was the best hiking companion I could have asked for, except for my husband and son, of course, but he was great. Did I have any issues with aggressive dogs on the AT or any other hikes that I have done with Micah? The quick answer is no. I had no problems with aggressive dogs. I'm very careful when I hike with Micah. I generally do not have him on a leash unless I am entering a state park. Then I generally do leash him, or if I'm in a very, very crowded area, which is rare. So he stays usually, right by my side. Sometimes he goes ahead of me, but most of the time he's right by my side. And if I see somebody's coming, if they have children, if they have a dog on a leash, I will yell, "My dog is friendly. Would you like me to leash him?" Those are the 2 things I say. And they'll either say, "Oh, my dog is friendly too, no problem," or "Yes, please leash your dog." And then I would immediately tell Micah to stop, to wait, and he would not run up to that other dog until I told him it was okay. So I would tell him to wait, I would leash him, and then I would make sure to give the other dog plenty of room as we go around them if they were aggressive. Any of the dogs that we met that were aggressive were on leashes. So those were very responsible owners. Never did I meet a dog who was aggressive that was not leashed. So that was really good. And even other hikes that I've been on, I haven't. Although Micah does cross-country ski with us. And I did come upon two aggressive dogs who went after him, which I didn't appreciate. But the owner basically said that their dogs were just protecting her. But anyway, Micah was okay. It just was a little bit scary. It was a scary moment, but Micah was able to get away. So another question is Micah missing his 10 plus mile a day walks? Well, I haven't asked him that, but he's being very active still. I mean, we just spent the weekend hiking. Well, not the weekend. We did a long hike. Today is Thursday. On Tuesday, we went up to the Whites and we did the Moat Mountain Traverse, which is about a 10-mile hike through the Moat Mountains. Great hike. So, it was 6 hours. So he got to hike. And then we do lots of walks through the woods here by our home. And this morning we, ran 3.5 miles, and he runs alongside me and chases sticks and chases squirrels. So, he's getting plenty of exercise. I don't worry about Micah. And then he sleeps a lot of the day, like most dogs. um, Someone asked if I would write a children's book about my hike with Micah on the AT. Well, it sounds wonderful. I don't see myself as a writer. I definitely don't see myself as an illustrator, but if anybody has some ideas and wants some stories, I can certainly provide stories for them. Contact me if you're interested in doing something like that. It's a great idea, though. Another good question. Did Micah ever wander off from the shelter at night? No, never. For two reasons. One is, by the end of the night, I think he was pretty tired and just wanted to, as soon as he saw me setting up my sleeping bag and my pad, we would eat. That would be our routine. I would set up my sleeping pad and my sleeping bag, blow up my pillow, put my liner inside my sleeping bag, and get everything all set up. Then we would eat our dinner, and then once he ate his dinner, he would go and do his sort of last pee for the night, and then he would just kind of look at me, and I'd say okay, and he would go up the shelter, onto the shelter, and just he would start snuggling up on top of my sleeping bag, although he knew he wouldn't wind up staying there because he would wind up going off to the side because I need to get into the sleeping bag. No, he never did wander off at night, but one of the reasons is, I don't think he would have anyway, because again, he was so tired and we were both tired. But I also always slept with the leash around my wrist and attached to him for two reasons. He likes to go cozy with other people, and sometimes other hikers, although all the hikers loved it, but you never know. There might be a hiker who doesn't like dogs, and he goes, snuggles up next to them, and they're like, what is this, So that was one reason. So he would always stay close to me, and he wouldn't pull, so I hardly ever felt him move. And the other reason is, if there was a bear, or if there was a skunk or a squirrel or something that came close to the shelter at night, I didn't want him running off and then waking everybody up, or, whatever. So I always had him attached to me when we slept in the shelter. When I was in my tent, he just would sleep. I never had to have him attached to me. It was just, he would never run off, and the tent was closed. So he knew not to paw at the tent. I taught him that since he was a puppy, because one little paw will, cut the mesh of the tent. So he knows when he needs to go out in the morning, he just sits by the zipper of the fly, and I just open up the fly, and out he goes to do his business, and then he comes right back. So he was very easy to hike with, as you can imagine. Another question was about skunks and coyotes. I did see one skunk, but it was actually in the backyard of a shelter, of a hostel. Somebody said, "Oh, wow, there's a skunk." And I went, "Oh, Micah, come." So he came right to me. I definitely didn't want him messing around with the skunk. So we were lucky, and thank God, that Micah never got sprayed that time or any other time. Coyote, I think I might have heard some coyotes in the distance in Virginia, but I'm not sure. We had never seen any. I did not see any coyotes. I did see some coyote scat around, but definitely did not see any coyotes along the way. So that was good. A lot of deer, and I did see 2 bears. One in Tennessee, about a mile from the shelter. We were all packed up, leaving to go in the morning, and Micah saw the bear first. It was down, the bear was down an embankment, so Micah couldn't have reached the bear, but he barked, and when he barked, the bear took off. So, and like I said in my other video, the best way to see a bear is running away from you. And this guy was running away. And the second time we saw a bear was in Shenandoah National Park, actually. We had only been hiking for about 5 miles, and there was beautiful, beautiful ferns, green everywhere on both sides. And all of a sudden, I'm looking to the left, and a head pops up. It was only about 20 feet from me. Head pops up, and it's a bear. And it wasn't a big bear. It must have been it wasn't a cub. It was probably an adolescent. So I went slowly to grab my camera. And as soon as I got my camera up, about to take the picture, Micah saw him. Barked. The bear took off. So no picture.